Welcome to the Spark It podcast, where we bring you inspiring conversations that spark your interest to do more and even spark your interest to start more conversations. And I'm your host, Helen Kimaru. And on today's episode, we will be talking about Albert Ojwang, a young Kenyan who died in police custody after he was arrested by police here in Kenya. And I want us to sort of dissect what that means for every young Kenyan or for every Kenyan right now, because police are supposed to serve and to protect. So this is such a sad episode to actually cover, and I wanted to give my thoughts on the same. So, who is Albert Ojwang? For those people who are listening today and they do not know who Albert Ojwang Albert Ojwang is a 31-year-old or was a 31-year-old teacher and a social media influencer. He has a wife and I think a 2-year-old son. Albert Ojwang was actually ex-famous. He was very famous on X. He was a blogger who was airing his thoughts on social media on the different things that are happening in Kenya. Just like every young Kenya right now, and the fact that we have become very vocal about issues affecting us on a daily basis, and the fact that we are also demanding accountability, and the fact that we have always had this idea that freedom of expression is such a thing in Kenya. And now, every waking day, it kind of feels like freedom of expression might be a far-fetched idea at this particular time. So, as I said, Albert Ojwang was a 31-year-old teacher. He was teaching in Voi as a Kiswahili teacher, and he was arrested on Saturday in Homa Bay County by the DCI, which is the Directorate of Criminal Investigation here in Kenya. And he was accused of publishing false and defamatory content about the Kenya Police Service Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat. He was arrested in Homa Bay, where he had gone to actually visit his family. And on Saturday in the afternoon, according to the news that we have right now, is when the DCI officers showed up at his home and arrested him. And when they did this arrest, the dad actually, they took him. And also the dad also, started his safari all the way from Homa Bay. So the controversial thing about this whole issue is that he was arrested in Homa Bay, but he was booked at a police station here in Nairobi, which is about more than 300 kilometers away. And that has also been one of the bone of contentions with Kenyans, because a lot of times if you are arrested in one particular location, you're going to be booked in that particular location, not ferried kilometers away to a different location. So when this happened, his father actually took the step of coming to Nairobi. And one of the clips I have watched online was the father had come to Nairobi with a title D, because Albert was arrested on a weekend. So if he was to appear in court, he would have appeared in court on a Monday. He was arrested on Saturday, which was on the 7th, so he would have appeared on the 9th in court to be maybe read his charges and, whatever happens in court and follow the due process. So his father actually carried his land title D, with the idea of, if maybe he goes to court, he will produce, and maybe they're asked to pay bail, he will produce the title D and guarantee bail for his son so that he can go home. But that never happened. Albert Ojwang died in police custody. The police are supposed to serve and to protect. And that's exactly, after that happened, everything became, people had questions. Because Albert Ojwang, there's a leaked audio of him speaking to his friend and asking him, by the way, how are the conditions of a police cell? Will I be safe and all that? And this friend tells him, yeah, you'll be okay. There is usually no issue. In short, No one expects that you can be arrested and die in police custody. That is very, very much unheard of. And I guess this is why this whole thing has actually like blown up. Um, on Monday there was a press briefing, and I was watching this briefing. The inspector general was giving details about surrounding the death of Albert Ojwang, and the initial press briefing said that Albert Ojwang had sort of unalived himself. And the more I watched these news, there was a lot of questions in my mind. And when I went to onto social media on different platforms, be it Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, people were asking so many questions. Somebody's asking, so for somebody who is this hopeful about life, why would they? The press briefing said that Albert Ojwang, he had sustained head injuries because he banged himself against a wall. So the question was, people were asking, why would somebody bang themselves against a wall? It must be so painful to bang yourself against a wall until you die. I saw one comment asking, if you were to even try right now and try banging your head on a wall, the first attempt you do it, it will be so painful for you, you wouldn't even do it another time. And if you are saying you are okay, and you had even been asking your friend whether how a cell looks like and if you'll be able to survive the whole ordeal, um, then that means that person was hopeful about life, because Albert Ojwang died less than 24 hours after he was arrested. He was arrested on a Saturday afternoon, and I think by Sunday morning he was already dead. So some people have been had those questions of how can somebody turn suicidal in such a short period of time. So all these questions now, and the fact that Kenyans, I am so glad that young Kenyans and even Kenyans started asking questions, because if we had not started asking questions, or people had not started asking questions, nothing would have been done. A couple of weeks ago, I think almost a month ago, an MP, a member of parliament here in Kenya, was shot dead on the streets of Nairobi. And there was all this uproar, especially from the political elite, about the death of this particular MP who was shot dead. And I remember that time you would actually try to watch news, and everything you would hear is MP dead, blah blah. They were trying to find solutions and trying to find his killer. And I think in less than 3 days there was already somebody who had been arrested. They had already scraped CCTV footage of this whatever happening, from tracing the last steps of this person from when they left Parliament building to when they were actually shot dead. So the manner in which this case was handled was very swift, extremely swift. And I think the one thing that has made Kenyans pretty mad is you can clearly see the difference, how the political elite are they're given sort of priority here in Kenya, when uh, everyday citizens, their plight is ignored. And were it not for the people here on social media talking about this thing and pushing and asking questions and creating videos or content around his death, maybe he would have been any other statistic. We would not have been having this conversation. But Kenyans are at a point in our lives where we demand for accountability. We are asking questions. We know we deserve better. And that's exactly how we people have been handling issues. So Albert Ojwang was arrested because as I said, they say that he had put defamatory content about the deputy inspector general on Twitter as a blogger. So the other question I have right now is, as a young Kenyan, does it mean that uh, if we ask for accountability, or if we defame somebody, or if we go about our business posting on social media and all that, does that mean that we will end up in body bags? That's actually my question. How can you putting defamatory content online lead to your death? What does the constitution say about this? Because as far as I'm concerned, and what I know for sure, is that he was supposed to be arrested, arraigned in court, charged with whatever offense, and at the end of the day, uh, you know, if found guilty, he was supposed to have either been paid for the offense or something like that. But for somebody to be arrested and in less than 24 hours, they die in police custody. So anyway, what happened was, for those who don't know, when people started asking these questions, so a postmortem was actually requested, and there was also this idea of, it's like these things are not being so clear. People be saying the police be saying he has committed suicide and stuff like that, and it doesn't look like it's really suicide. And so when the postmortem was done, the suicide idea, or this whole idea of him banging himself against a wall, was actually ruled out. So the question is, who killed Albert Ojwang? And did Albert Ojwang deserve to die, and especially in police custody? It's been 1 year since the Gen Zs here in Kenya, we held the protests last year, when we were protesting against the finance bill. It kind of feels so deja vu for something like this to be happening at such a time, because last year a lot of young people lost their lives because they were demanding for accountability, they were asking for better. And it kind of feels, in my personal opinion, as if the police brutality that was experienced at that time set a very bad precedent for what is happening today. Because since June of last year, 2024, there have been a lot of kidnappings, people disappearing, and eventually a lot of times they are found dead and no one is held accountable. And at some point, the government said that we are not the ones who are abducting people. Then another time, somebody in government says, oh, we have put an end to the abductions. What does that mean? It means people in government were doing this. So it's kind of a sad, precedent that was set. Very bad pace, that people could disappear and show up in body bags. And now it kind of feels like it's police brutality, abuse of power, lack of accountability. That's exactly what is happening right now. And in the last 2 days, there have been proceedings in Senate, and people have the Senate has been discussing this whole issue and demanding for accountability. The internal security minister was showed up in the chambers, and the Inspector General of Police showed up, the DCI showed up, and they were all giving these accounts of what they think should have happened, or what happened. And in all this, as all this is happening, there is no CCTV footage to show what happened to Albert Ojwang. Albert Ojwang was placed in a cell alone. So no one can account in terms of if he had like inmates around him or cellmates. No one can give an account of what happened to him. It's only the police or the people who handled him know. And the fact that there is no CCTV footage, it becomes even more controversial. As I was listening to these proceedings, one of the ladies, I don't remember her name, she came and said that the CCTV was not plugged in. It was not on. So you wonder, was it deliberate? Was it a deliberate attempt to cover up for something that had already happened? And then today is Thursday, the 12th. In the morning, I woke up to the Star newspaper saying that Albert Ojwang was actually tortured in one of the biggest forests in the city, Karura Forest. He was tortured there, and then taken now to police custody before he was rushed to the hospital. So there's actually like so many accounts of what might have happened to Albert Ojwang. But the sad thing is that Albert Ojwang is no longer here. Albert Ojwang cannot tell us the truth. Albert Ojwang cannot speak for himself. Albert Ojwang had a family. Albert Ojwang was somebody's son. As a young person, even as I reflect on what has happened to this man, I feel sad because you kind of wonder, are you next? Are we next? Who is next? You know, if we have gotten to these levels of no accountability, especially from people who are supposed to serve and protect us, then you start wondering, am I gonna be next? If I voice my opinion, if I speak up against an issue like this, like the way I'm actually doing this video right now, or the way so many people have created so many videos advocating for Albert Ojwang, you wonder, are you gonna be next? The government is already working on, I think, a bill to have, access to our social media and all these. Why are people in government so afraid of accountability, so afraid of being called out, so afraid of young people asking or demanding for accountability or demanding for better? Why is it so hard to be accountable? Why would you want to rule people, in terms of like instill fear in people so that you can rule them? Is it really necessary? um I was reading comments online from Kenyans giving their opinions about this whole thing. And one person actually said, this feels like, when you're in a relationship where your partner does maybe like a strange thing to test your reaction and see what they can get away with. And this person was saying that the leadership in Kenya right now is definitely feels like that's what they have been doing, testing the waters to see what they can get away with. Because the rate at which young people have lost their lives, the rate at which police brutality has just skyrocketed, it just feels like you're testing the waters to see, if we do this, what would be the reaction of the masses? If we do that, what would they do? Would they show up on the streets? Today in particular, people went to the streets. They were protesting. They are demanding accountability. They are demanding justice for Albert Ojwang, and they are demanding that the Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat steps down. Because also there is this idea of, so you are the complainant, because again, at the end of the day, I think by Monday we knew who was complaining about this defamation, which is the DIG. So he was the complainant. So people are wondering, why would he still, like, the investigation is ongoing, why can't he resign? Why would he be there? And there has been this sentiment around, like, wouldn't this tamper with the whole process of accountability and demanding better for Albert Ojwang? Because Albert Ojwang is not here. He cannot speak up for himself. He cannot demand justice for himself. And that's why Kenyans were on the streets today. They were protesting. And again, they are being tear gassed for the same. So you wonder, where are we really? My question is, where are we really headed? How can we demand for better if our own leaders don't give us room to actually say how we want to be led, or to actually be part of the decision making, or be part of the table that demands for accountability? Why can't we sit on that table and demand for accountability in a very sane way, without people losing their lives? A father now does not have a son. A son does not have a father now. A lady does not have, like, a lady lost their husband. It's so sad. And how many times do we have to do all this activism? How many times do we need to keep talking about these things? How many people will have to lose their lives before we say enough is enough? Like, how many people have to lose their lives before we can realize that this is just, it's a little bit much? And again, as I said, if it was not for people advocating for Albert, maybe we would not be having this conversation. Maybe his death would have also been just any other statistics. Freedom of speech in Kenya, Article 33. we are we are living in a time where it kind of feels like people are just they're just interpreting the constitution the way they want and how it works for them, and especially the people in leadership. So they interpret the constitution the way they want it to work for them, and then they use that to castigate young people from doing all these things. We demand for accountability. They're like, nah, mm-mm, you won't go through that. We try to say we want this or that. It doesn't happen because why? Somebody somewhere believes that they're not accountable to anyone. You shouldn't ask questions. Let me read for you some of the comments that I have come across online with regards to Albert Ojwang. But let me tell you, even before I do that, it's such a sad thing. I was actually reading somewhere, somebody in some poetry group, someone was saying that yesterday, I think when they were leaving work, they were kind of feeling unsafe. And then another one, who is also a poet, said that they are wondering, with all the work that they put out there, because they are poets are like activists. They put a lot of work out there that probably talk about the political elite not being accountable or stuff like that, or trying to call people out for the things that are happening out here. So they were wondering if they are really safe. Do they need to actually be, do they need to be afraid for their lives? Do they need to actually look back every time they are walking around and wondering if somebody is actually following them? So you see, I wonder, is that the kind of life they want us to live, where you have to be afraid to say what you think and stuff like that? What are the courts for? I defamed you. Take me to court. I'll serve my due process. If I need to pay you or I need to go to jail, let me go to jail. But it doesn't mean I should die. So I saw a video online just about this whole thing to do with Albert, and somebody was said, and whoever did it went home to meet his kids and wife and told them how he had a good day at work. Another one said, just a moment. Another one said, one day we shall wake up and redeem back our country. This is too much to handle anymore. Then another one quoted Albert's dad. Albert's dad in one of the interviews said, they killed my son and went home with milk and bread for their children. And then another one says, may his spirit haunt those responsible for his death. May they lack peace for the rest of their lives. May the tears of his dad don't go in vain. It's so painful. And then another one says, I will never vote in Kenya again. Then somebody replied to that one in particular. They said, that doesn't help. Just make a better choice no matter how unpopular it is. Yeah, by the way, honestly, with regards to voting, I think we really need better leadership. Even as citizens, as young people, honestly, I feel like uh we are part of the problem in one way or the other, because we our vote really counts, and we need to, in as much as we are demanding for accountability and good leadership and governance, I think also, even in the next election, we need to do better as people who have the ability to vote for the leaders that we want. And also, honestly, I also think that as young people, we need to take up leadership positions, because if we think we can do better and we know we can do better, then we need to put ourselves out there so that people can elect us and so that we can have that better leadership. Yeah. So, those are some of the comments. Then there's another one that says, the most painful part is that the dad had even carried title deed to come bail out his son, only to reach at Central Police Station and be told that his son is no more. Then, with regards to what I had talked about as initial press briefing, being that he had unalived himself, somebody says, there's no way this guy took his life. You can literally hear the fear he had about his life. He was murdered in the hands of the so-called police officers, whom could have protected him instead. Where did humanity go for real? This is so painful, considering he was also an only child. As I'm recording this, I was reading some statement that was released not long ago that one of the police officers has been arrested and will be charged with his murder. But I think I still there's there's this there's that feeling of, is that really the person who did this, or are there more people that were actually involved and one of them is the only one who is taking the fall for everyone else? What I know is that Albert deserved better, and his dad deserved better, his child deserved better, his wife deserved better, and we as Kenyans deserve better. We demand for accountability. And I don't think where we are headed now is a good space. And it kind of feels sad. Growing up, I would see the way some East African countries, you would hear a lot of stories and how maybe even people don't have freedom of expression and stuff like that. And it used to feel like one of those things that is so far-fetched until it happens to you, until it happens to you. And now you live in a state where you don't know, should I say what is on my mind, or should I not, and stuff like that. It's really such a sad state of affairs, honestly. Justice for Albert Ojwang, honestly. Let us know your thoughts on our comment section, especially here, especially on YouTube and TikTok. Um, Thank you for listening to this episode on tuning in. It's been the Sparkit podcast. If this podcast has inspired you to take action where there is injustice, do whatever it is that you can do to change a little corner of your world. Speak up. Don't be part of the problem. Speak up and demand for accountability regardless of where you are, whether in your community, in your country, at school, at work, because we deserve better and we need people to be accountable. Yes, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thank you. Until the next episode, keep it at the Sparkit podcast. Bye. For Albert Ojwang. In the darkest of nights, I'm haunted. And now, in broad daylight, I have the same feeling. That feeling where the hair in your body stands still, the air is eerie, engulfed in sadness and a pain untold. A parent somewhere in Homa Bay will never live to see their son. See, we now try to have a good night's sleep, but we are haunted by the very shadows of bad decisions when we cannot speak up in peace, demand for accountability, or go through the due process. When those who are supposed to serve and protect become the very enemies of the people. When lies are peddled and a life undignified. When you live in fear of being next, wondering, is tomorrow gonna be my turn? Albert Ojwang was and will always be someone's son. Albert Ojwang can no longer speak up for himself, but Albert Ojwang deserved better. Say his name, Albert Ojwang. Justice for Albert Ojwang.